Hi everyone, Eileen, Veilleux, the fam here. Welcome to another episode in our mini mental health series. This week we are going to be covering major depressive disorder. So saying that, let's get started with this. Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest, also called major depressive disorder or clinical depression. It affects how you feel, think, and behave, and can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. You may have trouble doing normal day-to-day activities, and sometimes you may feel as if life isn't worth living. More than just the blues, depression isn't a weakness and you can't simply snap out of it. Depression may require long-term treatment, but don't get discouraged. Many people with depression feel better with medication, psychotherapy, or both. We're going to now go into some of the symptoms of major depression, and these are just the general symptoms of it. And then we'll cover the symptoms of it in children and in adults. Although depression may occur only once during your life, people typically have multiple episodes. During these episodes, symptoms occur most of the day, nearly every day, and may include feelings of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, or hopelessness, angry outbursts, irritability or frustration, or over small matters, loss of interest or pleasure in most of all normal activities such as sex, hobbies, or sports, sleep disturbances including insomnia or sleeping too much, tiredness and lack of energy, or even small tasks take extra effort, reduced appetite and weight loss or increased cravings for food and weight gain, anxiety, agitation or restlessness, slow thinking, speaking of body movements, feeling of worthlessness or guilt, fixating on past failures or self-blame, trouble thinking, concentrating, making decisions, and remembering things. Frequent or recurrent thoughts of death, social thoughts, suicide attempts, or suicide. Unexplained physical problems such as back pain or headaches. For many people with depression, symptoms usually are severe enough to cause noticeable problems in day-to-day activities such as work, school, and social activities or relationship with others. Some people may feel generally miserable or unhappy without really knowing why. Some of the common signs of depression in children are a little different sometimes than adults, so that's why I want to go over it, because not just adults get depression, but children can get it too. Common signs and symptoms of depression in children and teenagers are similar to those of adults, but there can be some differences. In younger children, symptoms of depression may include sadness, irritability, clinginess, worry, aches and pains, refusing to go to school, or being underweight. In teens, symptoms may include sadness, irritability, feeling negative and worthless, anger, poor performance, or poor attendance at school, feeling misunderstood and extremely sensitive, using recreational drugs or alcohol, eating or sleeping too much, self-harm, loss of interest in normal activities, and avoidance of social interaction. Depression is not depression in older adults. We're talking like, mid 50s up To the elderly, depression is not a normal part of growing older, and it should never be taken lightly. Unfortunately, depression often goes undiagnosed and untreated in older adults, and they may feel reluctant to speak up. Symptoms of depression may be different or less obvious in older adults, such as memory difficulties or personality changes, physical aches or pains. Hold on a minute. Fatigue, loss of appetite, sleep problems, or loss of interest in sex, not caused by medical condition or medication. Often wanting to stay home rather than going out to socialize or doing new things. Suicidal thinking or feelings, especially in older men. Now I want to give you a little intake on it because I've dealt with depression in all of these different areas. When I was growing up, I was severely depressed. I was never diagnosed with it. I never went to the doctor for it. My parents didn't recognize it. And you have to remember, for older adults like myself that are in their 50s and 60s, a lot of the things that are we have labeled as different disorders now weren't labeled back then. I remember growing up, I used to have pains. And when I spoke to my mother about it, she used to tell me they were just growing pains. I remember not wanting to make friends because I was depressed because of my visual impairment. And, all the way through elementary school, junior high, and high school, I was picked on in different ways. I was bullied to a point where it was unlivable. I didn't want to go out. I wanted to stay in. My mother got to a point where she made me go and make friends, and I didn't like that because I knew they weren't going to accept me for me because they were going to either laugh at me for different things or make fun of me. So I know what it feels like to be depressed as a child. Like I said, I went through it all the way from elementary school all the way up to high school. I know what it's like to be depressed as an adult. When I lost my late husband, I went into a major, and I mean major depressive episode where I did not want to eat. I didn't want to do nothing. I basically just wanted to sleep. I had no appetite. I had no drive. I had nothing. I just didn't want to live. I was feeling miserable. And it took a while. And I remember when I wanted to quit smoking, and I talked to my doctor about Chantix. And he said, since I lost my husband and the type of life I had before, he wouldn't recommend it because it would enhance any feelings I got of suicide. When I was young, I didn't want to live. But as I became a Christian, I love me for me. God created me. I take my visual impairment as a gift now. Instead of a curse. Growing up, I didn't understand it as much. As children, we don't. But it has taught me to see people the way we need to see them. And because I grew up in a low-income project in Massachusetts, and we had what they call the New England attitude, which is you say something wrong to me, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to speak my mind right then and there. I don't care who likes it and who don't. And I had that type of attitude. I used to get in fights all the time. So yes, I know what depressive disorder is. I have some friends that have it worse. I've learned to control mine without medication, um, more the hard way than anything. Um, when I lost my late husband, it took a close friend of mine to snap me out of my depression, and it took quite a few months. Like they said, it wasn't just a bout of the blues. I mean, it was several months. I've had a lot of people. I used to go into my bedroom. I have a huge walk-in closet in my bedroom. And when I would get severely depressed, I would go in my bedroom, lock my bedroom door, make sure the light's off, go into my huge walk-in closet, close that door with no light on, and just sit there, bundle myself up in a ball. Basically, sitting basically like in the fetal position, and just sit there until I fall asleep sitting like that. And a lot of my friends that I had noticed this, and it took a while to get me out of it. So yes, major depressive disorder is not anything to laugh at. And if you don't know the person, please, because they are so close to the line of suicide. They need positivity in their life. Um, you know, they need to be affirmed that they mean something and that they matter. They didn't ask to have this major depressive disorder. I'm sure I know I didn't like having it. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like me. And I'm sure anybody else that has it feels that way. And that's why it's so important to see with your heart and not the eyes. Because a lot of things people look at, whether it's a chronic illness or a mental illness, if they can't see the problem with their eyes, they think, oh, you're faking it. You know, there's nothing wrong with you. There's been so many times I have a thick file that I could show you just dealing with my eyesight, nothing else, on the struggles I had when I had my first seeing eye dog. I was called a liar. I was called a faker. People would, because they don't know me, they don't know my vision, they don't understand it. So when they heard the word legally blind, their mind just erased that word legally, and all they heard was blind. And it's like, you're not blind, you can see. You can see. You don't need a dog, and blah, blah, blah. I literally had to fight. Even for, in the town I lived in, I had to fight because I could not see, because it was a smaller town, they didn't have a great big library. Their system wasn't up on computers. They just had it like on little index cards, like they remember them. I couldn't read it because it was, small print for me. They had no large print books in there. They had no audio book. They didn't have anything in Braille. I mean, they had things for people that were deaf, but they had nothing for people that had any visual impairment. And I had to fight, and I had to get a special legal group. It's government funded. I forget the name of it. I think it's called the ADA. That deals with this in different places, and they came to the town meetings because everything had to, quote, be voted on in the town meeting. And I remember the mayor of the town was telling us Well, people voted against it. And she says it doesn't matter. The law is the law. You know, you're supposed to be representing the law of the town by this. It's a federal and government law. So they were not happy because they had to upgrade for me and everything. But I mean, I literally had to fight for everything all my life. And I've learned to overcome. But these are just some things that I had to deal with my major depressive disorder. Well, being depressed, I wouldn't say I had major depressive disorder, but with my depression growing up, and how I had to handle it. And, you know, the people's views, because they see with their eyes and they didn't see with their heart. If they couldn't see like a broken arm, a busted leg, or an amputated limb, or anything like that, in their eyes, everything was okay. And you can't look at people that way. Because you don't know if they have a mental disability or they could have a chronic illness, like fibromyalgia. A lot of people with fibromyalgia, that's a chronic illness, feels like they have a barbed wire fence around them tightly. Imagine living with that. Picture a barbed wire fence wrapped around you tightly, and all that barbed wire is digging in different places on your body. It's painful, but you can't see it. But it's a chronic illness that they have, and they feel it. It causes insomnia. It makes it hard for them to do anything. So please, this is why it is so important for everybody to learn to see with your heart and not their eyes, and why this needs to be brought to attention. Because of that, if you have any questions about any type of chronic illness, mental illness, there's another YouTuber that I'd like to bring up to your attention. Her channel is called That Crohn's Chick. She covers chronic illnesses. She has panels with people that have different chronic illnesses. Guys, this is not about what you can see on the outside. Not everything that happens is visible. This is why it's important, and why my saying is to learn to see with your heart and not your eyes. Because what the eyes see isn't important. What's important is invisible to the eye. And those are chronic illnesses, mental disorders, people's personalities. What makes them them? That's what's important. So please, 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 I implore you, check out That Crohn's Chick if you haven't. Check out her channel. Learn about chronic illnesses at the same time you're learning about major depressive disorder. You get a new outlook on life and on people. And it might help you more to understand what people go through on a day-to-day basis that you can't see. And knowing that will teach you how to see from the heart and not the eyes. So until I see you again, remember, you matter to me. You're important to me. I love you for you. You are made uniquely. So until I see you again, bye. Thanks.